You are watching KAVU 25, News Now at 6.
Good evening and thank you for joining us. I'm Adam Seibel. The apprehension of migrants along the southwest border in July jumped more than 33% from last month. Border Patrol agents apprehended nearly 137,000 migrants who crossed the border between ports of entry. This brought the total for the year to 1.65 million migrants. Through the first 15 days of August, Border Patrol agents apprehended more than 83,000 migrants. University of Houston students are grappling with the looming closure of the university's LGBTQ Resource Center, which will soon be disbanded in accordance with Senate Bill 17. You can check that out and more over on our Twitter, Crossroads Today. Victoria unemployment went up in July. The Texas Workforce Commission reports unemployment in July in Victoria was at 4.6%. That's 0.3% higher than it was in June, and that much higher in July of last year. The state July average for this year, 4.5%. Governor Abbott has no constitutional authority to define the flow of migrants across the Rio Grande as an invasion. A preliminary injunction hearing over those floating barriers in the Rio Grande is set to take place in Austin on Tuesday. The Justice Department is asking a federal court in Texas to block the construction of any new floating barriers. The Department of Justice also wants the state to remove the barriers in Eagle Pass, which is a city that borders Mexico. Governor Abbott says the barriers are part of the state's efforts to curb migration from the southern border, but the Justice Department says the state installed those barriers without authorization. That hearing set to take place at 9 a.m. on Tuesday in Austin. A juvenile gunman in Jacksonville, Florida is being charged with carrying a concealed firearm and discharging a firearm on school property. The Jacksonville Sheriff's Office announced that a 15-year-old has been identified as the shooting suspect. Authorities say he began firing a gun as several fights broke out after a high school football game Friday night. Officers chased the suspect and shots were fired, striking teenage suspect in the lower extremities, and a bullet grazed his head. He was arrested and taken to the hospital for treatment. Authorities with the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office said the officers involved had been with the department for about 6 years, and this was their first officer-involved incident. Now to that weather threat facing people in Southern California. Hurricane Hilary churned off Mexico's Pacific coast Friday as a powerful Category 4 storm, churning up massive waves. It's now weakening as it heads towards the Golden State, but still bringing a dangerous flash flood threat. The National Hurricane Center has issued a tropical storm warning for parts of Southern California, the first time that's ever been done.
Hurricane Hilary is churning its way toward Mexico. Forecast to still be a hurricane as it reaches Mexico's Baja California peninsula on Sunday. Hilary is expected to weaken as a tropical storm as it approaches Southern California later in the day.
We are expecting a rare and dangerous rainfall event with significant flash flooding, river flooding, mudslides and debris flows, as well as the potential for wind damage from strong tropical storm force winds.
If Hilary reaches Southern California as a tropical storm, it will be the first time since 1997 that a tropical storm moved through the state.
We strongly advise people to stay home. If you do not need to be out on the roads, please take yourself out of the equation. We need to make sure that all of our folks are kept safe, including our first responders.
Riverside County's Indio Emergency Operations Center is tracking the storm, ready to dispatch resources across the Coachella Valley if necessary.
What we're looking at is potential for widespread heavy rain and areas of very intense rain with potentially very intense winds.
Additional search and rescue teams are expected to be deployed on Sunday, and some communities are handing out sandbags to prepare for any possible flooding.
We're batting down the hatches.
Some of the heaviest rains from Hilary could be seen further inland in the deserts. Death Valley is forecast to see between 2 to 5 inches between Saturday afternoon and Monday morning. The National Weather Service says some areas could see their annual rainfall in just 48 hours. Zoreen Shah, ABC News, Los Angeles.
All right, we're going to check in with First Warn Storm Team meteorologist Howie Gordon to see what the rest of your weekend will look like. Sure wish we could get some of that rain over here.
Your wish is going to be our command pretty soon, Adam, because as much as we have those storms out there brewing headed towards California, we might have some headed our way because the dormancy period out in the tropics is over. They're starting to breed some storms and maybe some stronger ones that could head our way with some moisture. For now, though, that's right, the heat front is still on, 105 plus with those heat indices. A little bit breezy closer to the coast. That helps a little bit. We'll be in the 80s this evening, overnight dropping down to 77 degrees. But as the work week starts to move ahead, we might see some showers. We'll talk more about that in my full forecast coming up in just a bit, Adam.
All right, thanks, Howie. Multiple train cars derailed in northwest Oklahoma on Friday. The derailment happened around 4:55 p.m. Friday afternoon between Moore and Norman, Oklahoma. BNSF Railway confirms 22 cars carrying non-toxic plastic pellets were derailed. OKC PD said a mechanical issue caused the train cars to disconnect. However, BNSF is still investigating the cause of that derailment. The company also had crews on site to clear the scene. No injuries were reported. So for your viewer poll for tonight, we asked, do you think Victoria's railway tracks are in good condition? Let's take a look at these results. 29% say yes, you think they're in good condition, and 71% say no, they need some improvements. Well, thanks for voting. Come to crossroadstoday.com/vote to participate. And for more on today's news stories, come to crossroadstoday.com, where you can submit birthday wishes, where Carolina Estrain will read them live on 25 News Now Sunrise. And you can also submit a local military hero so we can recognize them. And come to our YouTube channel, Crossroads Today. You can hit the like button and click the notification bell. Stay with us. Coming up on 25 News Now at 6. With just days until the first Republican debate, it looks like Donald Trump will be a no-show.
Rain has been a no-show for a long time in these parts. You know what? Things are looking to change, I guess, for the better. We'll talk more about it coming up in just a little bit.
The road to election 2024 with just days until the first Republican debate. Looks like former President Donald Trump will be a no-show.
This morning, all eyes on Georgia as Atlanta braces for Donald Trump's surrender, his Republican rivals flooding the battleground state, pitching a new direction for the party.
I hope that we will be focused on the future of the country rather than some of the other static that's out there right now.
Notably absent, the former president, still maintaining a commanding lead in the race. It won't be the only time his challengers take the stage without him. Sources tell ABC News Trump is not only planning to skip the first debate, but is considering counter-programming it. His former running mate insisting he should show up.
You know, I always stood loyally by President Donald Trump until my oath to the Constitution required me to do otherwise. But my differences with the president go far beyond that fateful day. And I hope to have a chance to debate them with him.
Much of the Republican field has been reluctant to take on Trump over his election lies. The New York Times reporting that a strategy memo posted by a pro-DeSantis super PAC advises him to defend Trump when former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie attacks him. Christie firing back.
Because people are really beginning to wonder what the hell he stands for. And if what he stands for is defending Donald Trump, then just drop out of the race and endorse him.
Trump has less than a week to surrender in Georgia. The former president expected to be photographed and fingerprinted. The state's Republican Governor Brian Kemp suggesting it's time to move on from the former president and his repeated false claims about the 2020 election.
That was 3 years ago. And if you're still mad about that, quit complaining about that.
Officials here in Atlanta are preparing to ramp up security, with Trump expected to surrender in just a matter of days. Remember, that deadline for Trump to surrender just 2 days after the first Republican debate, just the latest example of his legal calendar clashing with his political calendar. Guys.
One person has died in connection to a wildfire burning in Washington state. The Gray Fire is one of 3 fires that broke out in the eastern part of the state on Friday, prompting level 2 and 3 evacuations across the region. As of Friday night, the blaze had grown to 3,000 acres and 0% contained. The Spokane County Sheriff's Office said 1 person died in connection to that fire, but it's unknown if the fire was the cause of death. Additionally, multiple buildings within Medical Lake city limits have been destroyed. And then in Maui, the Maui Fire Department response to fire activity is now limited to some isolated hotspots. With much of the fires at least 85% contained, there have been 114 confirmed fatalities, but that number expected to rise as the search continues for the hundreds still unaccounted for.
More than 2,000 buildings were destroyed on Maui, another 500 damaged as the long road to recovery begins. The governor promising criminal penalties for anyone trying to take advantage of the tragedy.
The land in Lahaina is reserved for its people as they return and rebuild.
Hawaii's First Lady overcome with grief at the devastation.
Tragically, it took less than a single day for us to lose Lahaina in the deadliest fire our country has seen in more than a century.
Among the victims, Alfredo Galianto, who made sure his family, tenants, and neighbors escaped the flames, but he stayed behind.
I know that he was trying to fight the fire to save our home so we can come back to our home.
Joy Richter, seen in this photo, clinging to the seawall with her dog Bacon and her father-in-law, describing the terror she endured.
The smells, the sounds, the sound of a blazing fire is something I don't wish on anybody to ever hear or experience. The sounds I heard will never, ever, ever leave my head.
Her father-in-law did not survive. 470 search and rescue workers and 40 search dogs are still combing through the debris. About 78% of the disaster area has been searched so far, yet hundreds of people are still unaccounted for.
This process is agonizing for the families waiting for word from their loved ones, and heartbreaking for those sifting through the debris.
President Biden and the First Lady are scheduled to travel to Maui on Monday to see the devastation and meet with survivors and local leaders. Melissa Adan, ABC News, Maui.
Experience our digital streaming service, Crossroads Today Plus. You can stream our daily newscasts and much more using your connected TV. Download Crossroads Today Plus on your Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Apple or Android TV. Just search Crossroads Today Plus.
Before our potential cool down, we're still dealing with the heat. We'll talk about everything and more coming up in just a moment. All right, here's what we have. Okay, above average temperatures. Yes, heat indices still up there in the 110, closing in on the 115-degree range. But cooler with rain chances. We're going to get right into that in a moment. 102 today, so 2 degrees shy of a record. Still above average like most of the summer. Good thing, a little bit breezy, especially along the coast. We'll take a little movement in our air. And here's what we have. Heat advisories, some excessive heat warnings in the purple, in the darker red color. But again, temperatures pushing 105 to 110 and even climbing. Most of the hotter temperatures out of the 110 range are above that, a little bit out of the viewing area away from the water. Another hot one here in the Crossroads. So on the coast in the 80s, hey, there's some drier areas out there and some of these numbers on the lower side. But really, ambient temperatures are up overall. Heat indices not as oppressive, but still, we're shooting or hitting right around 110 in some spots. Here we are. Okay, 108 up there in Gonzales. The same in Hallettsville. Victoria at 105, and on the coast in that 105 range. So yes, another very, very hot one here in the Crossroads, the day that is. Looking ahead, is this a sign of things to come? I was talking about clouds and rain to cool us down. Is this corresponding with what potentially might be happening? Are heat indices going down? Let's take a look at what's going on. High pressure, kicking some butt right now, getting all the storm activity and any storm pushing our way, kind of deteriorating it or redirecting it. And high pressure is the star really doing its thing. But what's going to happen? The high is going to start heading out of the way. That's going to open up the door for that moisture with some potential storms out there in the tropics. What happens? Yeah, that moisture comes our way. The high's no longer blocking it. We're finally going to start to see some showers here in the Crossroads. And I'm getting better than a 50, 60, maybe a 70% chance by Tuesday and into Wednesday. Here's our future tracker. Nothing yet, nothing yet. But then by about Tuesday-ish, we'll start to see some of this activity moving into the Crossroads. Yeah, there's some heavy stuff there, and we need some heavy stuff because we have been as dry as can be. Rain forecast. So 89, our water out of the 90s, cooling down just a little bit. Bays will be smooth, seas at times under or less than 2 feet. Here's what we got here. We got the whole tropics covered up. Here's what we got. We had 5 disturbances. Now we also have a depression starting out there. Here's where it's headed. We'll keep an eye there. This storm over here in the Cuba, Bahamas area, that might move into the Gulf. So we have a lot of activity on there. Now we got some way out there. Could see some further development, but we'll keep an eye on the closest storms at the moment that could potentially impact us here in the Crossroads. And then we saw some activity a little bit ago on some of these packages. What are we talking about? We are talking about what's going down over there in the Pacific, or going up for that matter. We have Hillary, who was a powerful 4, now a 3, is going to start to weaken, but eventually going to move into the continental United States, thus via California, and could bring potentially some bad flooding. So we're going to keep an eye on what's going out there on the other side of the world. Not the other side of the world, other side of the coast. All right, here's what we got. 80s this evening, overnight dropping down to 77 under partly cloudy skies. Then tomorrow, 102. Heat indices pushing 111 degrees. You saw what I just showed you on some of those future casts. Here's what we got. We have some rain chances and clouds. Look at it. Cool. Look at this. Mid-90s. We haven't seen that. It's going to knock us down to where we're supposed to be. Heat indices still pushing 105, 107. But the clouds, rain, and those storms, yes, might finally bring us some relief here, much needed relief, to the Crossroads. For more weather, news, and sports, you got our app. That's at crossroadstoday.com, and that is free with any Android and iPhone. And now we go to Sports with Zach.
VC volleyball back in action today. I'll have that coming up in sports. Head coach Monica Peacock got her first win as head coach yesterday. Her girls in action again this evening. The Lady Pirates taking on Dallas College Cedar Valley. In set one, the Pirates dominant throughout, winning 25-15, and that's pretty much how this entire game went. They swept their way to another victory, winning sets 2 and 3 by a score of 25-14. After today's action, the girls won't be in action for another week when they hit the road against Ranger College in Ranger, Texas. That's about a 5.5-hour drive. Last night, the Astros welcoming division rival, the Seattle Mariners, to town. Kyle Tucker, a late scratch for the evening, and that made it much easier on the Mariner pitching staff, who shut Houston out. The Mariners didn't allow a single run and only gave up 4 hits with 1 walk. The Astros, on the other hand, great pitching as well, allowing just the 2 runs, both via the solo homer. Their game today just underway about 15 minutes ago. So that left the Texas Rangers with a shot to gain a game on Houston, who has been breathing down their necks for over a month now. The Rangers down 9-4, headed into the 9th inning, but making some noise. This RBI ground out is going to make it a 1-run game. So with 2 outs, it's Seager, but he hits it to one of the deepest parts of the park. Not quite enough, and the Brewers avoid a collapse to escape with a win. AL West lead, still at 2.5 games. The Refugio Bobcats have a big measuring stick in week 1 versus the Hitchcock Bulldogs. Refugio, one of Texas's most historic football programs. Dave Campbell's football saying Refugio has the 6th most wins all time amongst high school football programs in Texas, with 775 wins all time. Number 1 is Highland Park with 875. The Bobcats looking to add 1 more to that total next week. They also have the top 100 rising prospects in the state. 3 area athletes made that list. Coming in at number 81 is El Campo star Oliver Miles. At number 94, Tidehaven running back Joseph Dodds, and Ernest Campbell of Refugio in at 97. And last night, an unfortunate injury during an Eagles preseason game. That is going to be Tyree Cleveland. Looked like a simple incompletion. He would actually have to get carted off the field and was in concussion protocol for this injury. And to add insult to the injury, he was later cut. However, since this broke, reports saying he's moving all extremities and the Eagles will still pay him while he remains under their medical care. This afternoon, the Texans fall to the Dolphins. C.J. Stroud looked great. And other football news, the Dallas Cowboys will play on our sister station, Fox 19, tonight at 9. Adam, back to you.
Thanks, Zach. Keep it here. Coming up, NBA star James Harden sells out of 10,000 bottles of wine in seconds on a Chinese live stream. Grab your cell phone and scan this QR code. That's a quick response code to download the Crossroads Today app. You can watch us anytime, anywhere, and get breaking news alerts and vote in our viewer polls. Submit news tips and photos, and you'll know all about our ongoing contests. NBA star James Harden is in disbelief after his branded wine sold out in just seconds. Tuesday, the Philadelphia 76ers guard joined a live stream in China with online celebrity Crazy Brother Yang to promote his J. Harden brand wine. 15 million viewers tuned in, and Chinese fans snapped up 10,000 bottles in no time, raking in $300,000 in sales. 2 bottles of the wine go for $60. Live stream shopping has exploded in popularity in China in recent years, becoming a multi-billion-dollar industry. Viewers can instantly buy goods from streamers. Makes me think of that popular streamer ice cream. So good.
James Harden had quite the time in China. He admitted that he wanted to play a year in China, actually. I mean, wow. At this rate, he's trying to force another trade out of Philly. China might be his only option pretty soon. He's running out of teams to go to.
Yeah. We had him in Oklahoma, then he came down to Houston with you.
He should have never left Houston.
Making his tour, trying to find that elusive ring.
He is. He's trying to visit all 50 states.
You talked about ice cream, though. Yeah, that's something you can probably eat today. But that's something that's going to get all over the place because it's very much on the hot, meltable side here in the Crossroads. 105 plus in some spots. Look at that, 108 up there in Yoakum. So 80s this evening, so we cool down a little bit. Still only 77 overnight. And then for tomorrow, here's what we're looking at. Another ice cream day. Just make sure you get in the cup because it's going to go all over the place. Zach, use a cup. 102 degrees. Heat in the seas, 111. Looking ahead to the rest of the week. Hey, we might see these showers. High pressure is going to move off out of the way. Those storms moving into the Gulf going to head our way with clouds and moisture and rain. And look at those temperatures on Tuesday and Wednesday, 94 and 96. We haven't been below 100 in a long time. We're finally going to see some relief later on during the work.
It's going to be boiling water.
Yeah, pretty much.
108 degrees.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Well, thank
Water
you all.
in my car is really hot. Sorry about that. Go ahead.
No, you're good. Thank you for joining us, and come back tonight for News at 10.